Hey everyone, it's Robert Hall, and in today's video, we're going to go over the GODOX AD400 Pro. If you need way more information on the GODOX products, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and if this video helps you out, please leave it a like. Right now, the GODOX AD400 Pro is shown with its Bowens mount adapter, which is attached via 4 screws, but just so you know, by default, it is only the GODOX mount, and this Bowens mount is included. You have to attach this Bowens mount adapter to use it with Bowens mount modifiers. So to start off, go ahead and put your AD400 Pro on a stand and make sure to tighten it down right here. On the opposite side of the light, you'll find the tilt handle. Just turn it counterclockwise if you'd like to tilt your light, and rotate it clockwise to tighten it down if you'd like to hold your light's position. To put the battery on, simply align the 4 pins with the 4 pins on the back, push it in, and slide it downward. To power it on, you hold the center button in the bottom, and that's going to bring up this display, which gives you a few seconds to turn this dial, which will unlock it. The reason for this is because they don't want this turning on while it's sitting in the back in your car or something like that. So this is an extra protection to make sure that you really mean to turn on the device. To power it off, simply press the power button again. The bottom right button allows you to test fire the flash. It will test fire at whatever output the light is currently set at. On the left-hand side, you have the modeling lamp control. Pressing the button will turn the modeling lamp on at a percentage. Holding the modeling lamp button will allow you to change that percentage using the wheel. Hit set to confirm the power level. Pressing the modeling lamp button again will enter proportionate mode, and in proportionate mode, the modeling lamp brightness will increase or decrease as you increase or decrease the flash output. So when you go really low in flash output, the modeling lamp will be very dim, but as you increase the flash output, it'll go bright, and it's trying to proportionately model with whatever your flash settings are. Next up, we have the high-speed sync button. So if you tap this, your flash will enter high-speed sync. You really should never have to hit this button because high-speed sync is something that should be automatically generated by your camera. On some Xpro triggers, you have a high-speed sync button and then you can go into high-speed sync. And on other triggers like the X1T, they will just automatically go into high-speed sync as soon as you pass the speed. So as long as it's activated on your camera and available on your camera, you should never have to hit this button. Top right button is probably the button you'll be hitting the most, other than the power button. This allows you to change the group or the channels. So by hitting the group button, you can advance between groups A, B, C, D, and E. And by holding the group/channel button, up here you will activate the channel, and you can change it to any of the 32 channels that are available, making sure to sync it with whatever X series remote you're using. I keep my stuff at 5. Now on the top of the display, you'll notice this M. That is the mode that it is currently in, which is manual. If I hit the mode button on the top left, it will change to multi, which is stroboscopic mode, or TTL. Again, this is another button you should never have to touch because if you're using the X series controller, then that can change the mode for you right from the remote. And if you need a video about using the X series remote, I've got guides to those linked in the description below, or here's one to the X1T in the top right corner. Now in the top center, this is a button to turn wireless off. So if you notice when I hit it, the wireless information in the top left corner disappears. There's really no purpose to ever use this as long as you're using an X series remote. However, if you are using a different type of receiver for this, so if you're plugging in, say, a Pocket Wizard product to this light and triggering it along with some other lights, then you may just want to turn this off just so it knows that you're only trying to trigger it with the Pocket Wizard. And the sync jack for this light is right up here on top. Now your dial will control the output of your light, but again, the best thing about this product is that if you're using the X series controller, you've got remote control of the power. Finally, we'll get into the menu here. This is the custom functions menu. Option number 1 is stable color mode. You can turn that on or off. With color mode on, you will have more stable color, meaning the color of the light will have less variance as you move across the power range. However, there is a little bit of a result here. If I turn this on and go back to the menu, you can see at 1256 power with color mode on, my T.1 flash duration is 1/7810th of a second. But if I go back in and turn that off, it's now 1/12,000th of a second. So the T.1 flash durations, the action stopping potential of this light, is diminished when you have the stable color mode on. Slave allows this to function as a slave when it sees another flash instead of using radio. So if you've got another flash and you're just trying to trigger this, that's when you would get into having to control everything from the side panel here because you don't have remote control. There's two options here, S1 or S2. Both of these will trigger optical slave, but S1 will trigger automatically at any flash that it sees. S2 will only trigger after it sees a pre-flash. So if you're using like a TTL system such as CLS to fire it, S2 would be the choice, whereas if you're using manual flash, you would want it to be on S1. Okay, up next we have modeling lamp control. There's two options here. One is CONT, the other is INTER. I'm not really sure what these stand for, like the exact word. I would assume that the first one means continuous, but I know how they function. The first one, CONT, that will leave the modeling lamp on at all times. The second one will recycle as your flash recycles. So let's leave that on for a second and go out of the menu. We're going to go up to a high power. And I'm going to hit, I gotta have the modeling lamp on. We're going to hit the test button, and that modeling lamp dips for a second until the light recycles. In continuous with the modeling lamp on, even when we hit test, the modeling lamp stays on the entire time, so there's no drop in brightness. Okay, up next we have the standby function, of which there are 5 options. There's off, 30, 60, 90, and 120 minutes. And basically this is how long the light will stay active before it automatically powers off. So if you think you're going to be walking away from it and you want it to turn off pretty quickly so that the battery lasts longer, then select something like 30 minutes. But maybe you're a wedding photographer and you've got this on a stand and you want to be able to eat dinner and then go right back to using your light, you can switch it to 120 minutes, or you can just turn it off altogether. On the second page, we have the light function. This is how long the display light stays on, so you can choose between 15 seconds off or always on. So I leave it on 15 seconds because I want it to be on while I'm adjusting the light, especially if you're out in bright conditions. But as soon as I walk away, I don't mind if this turns off, saves a little bit of power. Next up we have delay. If you're using a manual trigger, you can dial in a radio delay. So with this radio delay, you can delay the flash and its timing with your trigger. This is pretty useful if you want to dial in something with hypersync, but otherwise just leave it off. Units. This is for setting the light for use with the alt masking function, which you can find a dedicated video about up here, but this allows you to say how many lights you want in an alt mask. And on the next option under ALT, this allows you to determine whether alt masking is activated, so it can be off, or what light you're on. So you can see right now there's only 2 options, but if I moved up to 4 alt, now I could set this light to be 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the sequence. Again, this is probably going to be limited to product photographers, but it's a pretty handy system if you want to do some complex masking. So go ahead and check out this video if you need more info. LCD, this determines how much contrast or lack of contrast is on your display. I recommend just putting this all the way to the top. ID, this is a secondary way to make sure that all your equipment is firing only off of your own equipment. So in addition to channels and groups, you also have an ID that you can set. So we can put stuff on any ID from 1 to 99. So if you're in a high volume area, you can set a specific ID number just to make sure that nobody else can trigger your lights unless they also had this ID number, which given that there's 100 options and there's still channels and groups, chances are nobody else is going to trigger your light. Beep is whether or not the beep is on. So if I hit the test button here and fire a flash, that beep means that the light has recycled and I can fire another flash. Also, this light kind of indicates that. It turns red when it's ready to be fired again. Reset will reset all the options in here. And also in the top right corner, you'll see the version. That is the firmware version. Mine is actually very much out of date because I don't actually use this light too often, so I've never even checked for an update, and this was a sample, so it has the earliest possible firmware version on it. But you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But here you can check if your version aligns with whatever the most recent firmware update available on GODOX.com is. Alright, that's the guide to using the 8400 Pro. Remember, if you're looking instead for how to set this up with a trigger, I've got dedicated videos on those in the description below. Take it easy, guys.